Welcome to another episode of MICdisABILITY podcast, where we discuss the issues surrounding the community of persons with disabilities in Nigeria. And just beyond the issues, we discuss their victories, because persons with disabilities win as well in different sectors where they are represented, and we discuss their challenges and then discuss how we can actually overcome these challenges, because we know that persons with disabilities in Nigeria are bedeviled with lots of challenges. And I am not alone. I'm here with my friends, and of course they have to introduce themselves. Mr. Kilanks.
Good afternoon. My name is Adiolu Kilanko. Glad to be here.
And Mr. Tete.
Good afternoon. My name is Tefa. Happy to be here.
So, most importantly, have you subscribed? Because if
Very
you have
important.
not subscribed, why? What thing we do you? Please hit on the subscribe button. Like, before you proceed, just subscribe first, then you continue watching. It's very important. It's going to encourage us to do more videos for you. Okay, so our conversation today is centered around inclusive politics or inclusive election in Nigeria. So inclusive politics, so inclusive election,
all join.
But most importantly, we want to narrow it down to our guest's bold step into the heart of Nigerian politics.
Yeah.
Wow.
So his bold step, I don't want to mention his name yet, but maybe he will have to introduce himself, Annie.
You should.
He should have.
Yeah, you should.
Okay,
You
so
should introduce
presenting to you, Dr. Chike. May just complete them.
Okogwu.
Okogwu.
You're
So,
welcome, sir.
Dr. Chike, you're welcome.
You guys are not serious.
Happy to have you, sir.
Same here. Thank you so much for the invitation.
Okay.
It's been long coming. We've kept pushing it.
We should
And,
yes.
Eventually, we're here. Thank you, viewers at home, and all those who are following. And like she said, hit that subscribe button.
Yes.
All the
Yes.
all the very
Dr. Chike, no say, you get to take call your name. We no really, I'm not sure say the audience, they don't get your name. So I beg, call the name, your name, and where they come from.
My name is simply Chike. Just stick with the Chike and you are safe.
Okay.
Okay, Dr. Chike, they're very humble.
Well,
Yeah,
you see,
humble
the
doctor.
truth of the matter is this. When you begin to associate titles to you,
Okay.
you often lose the essence of your being. And I'll give you an example. When I mention the name Dangote, or I mention Tinubu, or I mention JJ, so the success of a man is by his first fella.
Yeah.
You understand?
Okay.
All right.
So I think that's what the essence. So I want to, once you hear Chike, you know it's ability in disability. And that's the brand I want to push down.
That is the spirit.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
So I think that the first question will come from
So
you.
Chike is my name.
But hope we not confuse him with Chike the musician.
Whichever Chike, or even Chike the drummer, Chike,
Well, I feel like I'm stuck with Dr. Chike in my mouth.
whatever you choose.
Okay, that's
Okay.
fine. I'll be forgiven.
All right.
So, sometime in 2022, South Africa, we commenced this voter education campaign for persons with disabilities. Then, aside this voter education campaign, we're also pushing for. We had another campaign, electability, where we encourage persons with disabilities to come out in their numbers and contest. Because beyond voting, you need to be voted for too.
True.
Yes.
So, in the heat of all of that, I think, was it Punch newspaper done that day? I saw Dr. Chike was contesting for presidency under ADC, I think.
Yes.
Dr. Chike, what's in ginger you?
What did do your mind?
What's in your mind? What's in your mind? Okay.
First, we're talking about inclusion.
Yeah,
Yes.
of course.
You don't look at when you say what gingered me.
Okay.
I don't think it's about what gingered me. It's about what the time was saying in the world, especially in Nigeria at that time. And you can agree with me that as we speak, that move brought attention to the plight of persons with disabilities, because all those who fell in love with me did not see disability.
Yes.
They saw Chike. And that was the essence of it all.
Yeah.
So if you ask what gingered me, I'll tell you that it should be what propelled me. And what propelled me was simply that need to bring that conversation to the table, that there is ability even in disability. Do not, if Martin Luther King, in his popular quote, said, I have a dream that one day our children will not be judged by the colors
of their skin,
but by the content
of their character.
I have a dream that one day persons with disabilities will not be judged by their disability, but by the content of their ability.
Yes.
Okay.
That is inspiring.
We are rephrasing that now.
Yeah, because you should be judged by the content of my ability.
But then, yes, I think that was even the first time I not necessarily met with you, but yes, I didn't know, because I had just entered the sector at the time, the disability inclusion space. So I saw you on TV. I was like, okay, this is Dr. Chike. Someone just mentioned this Dr. Chike is a person with disability too. But then at the time, what were the challenges you encountered as an aspirant?
The major challenge, I would say, was funding.
Okay.
Because getting into that space, and I'll give you a clear example, the primaries were held in Abeokuta.
Okay.
You know, sitting in Abuja, going for meetings in Abuja, life was easy. All of a sudden, I realized that I had to travel with a crew, my team, to Abeokuta. So one set was put in a vehicle to go to Abeokuta. I had to fly and all that. So by the time you look at all that, getting to Abeokuta to the issues of accommodation, you know, trying to get everything, the logistics of traveling with a whole party like that, it was quite draining. But it just showed me that it was not, this is not about mouthing, I want to do this. If you want to really get into that space, there's much work to do. And funding, finances is one of the key points.
Dr. Chike, you mentioned funding. So now this funding, was it a problem because you're a person with disability, or just
or a problem generally for every other aspirant?
I think it cuts across.
Okay.
Why I say it cuts across is you have to also reach out to the delegates.
Yes.
Traversing the plains of Nigeria, at some point we had to use private jets. Was that expensive? Yes. It was that expensive because you cannot depend on the commercial airlines if you have to hit the spots where you need to go and talk to your delegates. So in a day you want to cover like 6-7 states. You understand?
It's quite expensive.
And traversing to the airport and back and waiting for connecting flights, count it out. So private jets had to come in. It was that expensive.
That is really expensive.
Yes, it was. It was that expensive.
Talking about these expenses now, we know that largely persons with disabilities we always say that they're socially excluded, they're economically excluded. Now, highlighting funding as a challenge, like to me, if persons with disabilities should be here, they'll just be discouraged. Say the little money I have, what are the chances that I'm going to win when I come out? After spending the money I don't win, what happens to me? Because I feel like this is if I'm a person with disabilities, my cue to please go inside, just share down manage your small money. Dr. Chike, like, what do you have to do? Because I've had private jet, I said,
But on the other hand, because I know money politics is always the major problem in Nigeria.
Yes.
Politics in Nigeria is very, very expensive.
All over the world, it's not cheap anymore.
Yeah, but
I feel like the one in Nigeria.
I mean, speaking for, look at the Ondo election, that gubernatorial election, that ADC candidate.
Yes.
Well,
spend 1 naira.
Okay,
I think he came third.
I can relate with that.
Yes.
Now, in one of our trips, we had to go to Ondo and Ekiti on the campaign train. So you can imagine doing those two states with the bad roads in between. Ekiti.
Roads are bad.
But again, back to the matter. When you are built to be an advocate of change, you don't look at the costs.
True.
Because if you do, that is the first thing that tells you you are not ready for this. Rather, you go in boldly. and believe and know that the God who made all these things possible will always create a way
For you.
True.
And that's exactly what happened to me. When we started, it looked like one madman was just going, going berserk. But as we continued, we saw that we were actually making sense. And we were reaching out, and people were understanding the message we were trying to convey. Again, like I said, it was no more about disability.
Yeah.
Even though the issues were there, because boarding the aircraft, it's part of the work that I've been doing to advocacy for inclusion and accessible aviation. It had its own challenges. As a matter of fact, on one of the trips, my wheelchair was not thin enough for the aisle of the. So I almost, and the private jets come with very expensive leather seats. So I had to be careful not to scratch the seats, because at the end of the day you pay more in terms of damage and all that. But by and large, it was interesting. And again, honestly, I'm going to do it again. And this time, of course, we're more prepared. We're going to do it again. Because for no reason, for any other reason, but a lot of people were inspired. A lot of persons with disabilities who came out for the elections saw me, and they were like, if this man can do it, I may not be able to do it on the national larger scale. But let me do whatever I can do. They may not have won the elections, but I'm proud to say that many of them ended up becoming SSAs or because they came out to the podium to speak, they were identified. And if more of us come out, Nigeria will be a better place.
Exactly.
Dr. Chike, if this man can do it, I can. They've not heard the backstory about the fund, That is why they will be saying this man.
No,
I
don't want us to discourage them. Funding is key. But you see, in what you call, there's what you call your social capital.
Yes.
Because funding is the same thing as capital.
Yes.
And the question to ask is, what have you done to inspire social capital? Why would people invest in you? And I can tell you that when I mention private jet, I tell you friends paid for some of those jets. Yes. Friends said, no, if Chike can do this, Chike, I hear you're running. Okay, go to so place. I've made your flights available for you. So you will see that because you have also touched one or two lives because of your work, you never know where that social capital will come from, because they believe in you, that you did something. And that's why, in one of my lectures that I gave at the electability, I said to them too, think about what you can do for your people. Just like who was it that said, think about it, JF Kennedy. Think not what your country can do for you, what can do for your country. Think of what you can do for your people, and you'll be surprised that your people will come out to support you.
True.
The problem we have in Nigeria is we see all problems as government's problem. Whereas if we take the problems as our problems, you will see that the world will become a better place.
True.
Yes.
What problem have you gone out there to try to solve? If you ask many people that question, you don't have an answer. And if you don't solve a problem, chances are that the problems will envelop you and swallow you.
Dr. Chike, I want to bring you back to that funding, because I don't want to leave it.
I was even trying to ask
You
is it
are
possible to win election in Nigeria without the money back?
So this is my issue. We have political financiers who might come out, to support any candidate because they believe in that candidate. But let the candidate come out first to say, I want to run for this position. Then let's see how many, what kind of support he can garner. I want to ask you, Dr. Chike, Is it because you're an advocate of disability rights? Or, I mean, what shaped the kind of messages you're pushing out at that point in time? Is it because you're an activist?
No. I think it was more because I am a trained leader.
Okay.
It brings me back to the issue of leadership. Nigeria is suffering from the lack of leadership, as it were. People don't even ask questions. Who is a leader? A leader is not about the man in front and then people are following behind. A leader is about going forth to die. As a matter of fact, that's the meaning of the word lead, L-E-A-D, which comes from the Indo-Greek word leith, L-E-I-T-H.
Okay.
It means to go forth to die.
To die.
If you watch some of these are epic movies, the English foreign epic movies. You see a man with only cordials. He stands on top of a platform. He's motivating and telling his people, and they are fighting an army that has guns and everything. And all you hear is, hey, they all, you know, that leader being in front, going against the enemy, you will see that his people follow him. And before you know what's happening, they defeat an army that has all the weapons of this world.
True.
That exactly is what leadership is all about. So when I looked at my constituency, persons with disabilities, operating from the charity model needed some form of change.
True.
Somebody had to lead this battle. Till this moment, we still operate a charity model, even though we have the rights embedded in our laws today, whereby persons with disabilities, as a matter of rights, ought to have certain privileges, coming to them.
Correct.
But it's not happening.
Yeah.
And I don't even call us persons with disabilities. I call us people with determination.
Okay.
Mark, watch this space. You will hear more about people with determination.
Okay.
Because it takes a lot of determination to do what we do.
True.
Every day, the way you all feel on a normal day with malaria fever, that's how I wake up every morning. Yes. It takes a lot of extra work for me to be able to gather myself up, to sit up, take a bath, take a dump, take a clean up, begin to run around. When you say 12 o'clock, an appointment for 12 o'clock, you can get up by 11. And within 1 hour, you have taken your bath, done everything. Not for us. We have to be up 3-4 hours ahead. So all this, sometimes it's draining. So you can imagine juxtaposing that into the political system, where you have to do all this and then stay up all night sometimes too, to make sure that you work with your team. Oh no, it's a lot of work. So I call us persons with determinations. And if you go to a country like UAE, people with determination, there's nothing like persons with disabilities in the UAE.
Okay.
We're known as people with determination. And we must bring that conversation here. Because it takes a determined mind to want to succeed as a person, as a PWD. Come to think of it, persons with determination, PWD, persons with disabilities.
That's true.
So right now, going further, pretty soon, you'll hear that conversation and let them know that it was on MICdisABILITY that you heard it first.
No, Dr. Chike, I want to bring you back to that funding, because there's something you said, social capital. And yes, in as much as I want to agree with you, but how many Dr. Chikes do we have?
Many.
Many, okay, many. At the grassroots, many. Okay. What I mean, how many Dr. Chike, in terms of determination, the social network or the social capital, the capital, that is the money now, right? So you want to encourage persons with disabilities, like you said, want them to contest, come out. You know, within the Nigerian context, we say no go high person enter problem.
Yeah.
So we tell them come out and contest. Now these people, they spend a lot of money. Maybe they don't have as much social capital. They spend money and they spend their personal funds, and they lose the election. I don't know how we're going to combine disability and depression because how are they going to recoup that? No, we have to be realistic here, because even at the grassroots, we are pushing for contest for councillorship, come out for chairmanship, just like from the local, from the grassroots, true. Then to state, national, and all of that.
I'll give you a story. I'll give you an analogy.
Okay.
There's a guy Chibuzo in your village.
I live in my village.
Well,
does he have money?
Chibuzo exists everywhere.
okay,
they
now I
exist
get
everywhere. And this guy reuses his begs for alms by the roadside because he's crippled. I use the word crippled advisedly.
Okay.
Because he's lame, because he doesn't even have a wheelchair. He crawls every day, but there's something unique about him.
Okay.
The environment where he begs, he has this short broom, and he cleans that area very well, then sets up. And the reason why people support him or drop something for him is because if they look around, that environment is a little clean. Now imagine him goes to the market and decides to sweep the market every day. At the end of every morning, he goes to he sweeps the market. He manages to, get himself together, and he does his job. He's known as the man who sweeps the market.
Yes.
If Chibuzo comes out tomorrow and says he wants to be councillor in that community, please, what will happen?
They will support him.
I hope you understand what I'm saying.
Sorry, there's actually a guy like that on the pedestrian bridge opposite Open University at Duse.
You see?
Every morning, he climbs up, sweeping, and comes down, sweeping the other way. So you see people passing. Actually, it's like a reward for what you have done. It's no longer begging for alms now.
This Chibuzo analogy, is he going to be paid or was he paid?
No,
he was not paid.
The question is, it wasn't paid.
He chose to change something.
But he chose to do it.
And society rewards him.
Now, the community, are they going to look past the fact that he's a person with disability without money?
At the time he was cleaning that place, nobody saw disability.
They didn't see disability.
Okay, Dr. Chike. No, let me actually say this, right? So some time ago, I had a conversation with a person with a disability. He had contested for, I won't mention his name, he had contested for election in the past. And he lost. So he said
Emmanuel woman. Emmanuel
somebody.
Okay.
So he had contested for election in the past and he lost. So he told me that he's in court, right? That he's in court, that he has to be in court until the next election. And that is the only way you'll be politically relevant until the next election. And that costs him money.
Now, I engaged him.
No, Dr. Chike, I've not finished what I was going to say.
I know where you're going to.
Okay.
And this brings me to one of the works that we did recently. You see, when you start something, don't look at that point of the election. Would you believe that close to 2 years after, guess who was recruited to do an accessibility audit of the Nigerian political space for persons with disabilities?
You?
The reports are out there.
So this is another question I was going to ask. Is Nigerian political space accessible, considering like the passage of the Discrimination Against Persons with Disability Prohibition Act in 2018 and its beautiful provision? So is the space generally accessible? Is the political space accessible?
Why? Why?
It is not.
Why?
Because first and foremost, the failure of accessibility is not me, the person with disability. I'm not the person at fault here. It is the system that is at fault. But I must tell you something, and I'm proud of all Nigerian political parties, at least the 19 that we have. Visiting them, ab initio, they did not understand what we're talking about. But the first day of engagement, day one of engaging them, I don't want to promote any political party.
Don't promote.
But I tell you that one of the political parties, amongst the top 5, immediately.
I will have up to top 5.
We do have one too.
There's a reason why I call them
top five. Okay.
One of the political parties amongst the big five, leading five, immediately adopted a PWD structure from top to bottom.
Not the party.
You understand? And following suit, there were other there were other political parties who had this platform for PWDs already existing in their structure. But because they were not as wealthy and large as the other ones. And of course, the party in power, I have to mention this, they have done a good job in terms of accessibility. Because from their structures, there's a difference between structure and infrastructure.
Of course.
So their structures accommodate PWDs from top to bottom. But their infrastructure, even in their national head office, is not yet PWD friendly. In the sense that even the SSA to the president at some point, I think there's an elevator there, but when they are holding meetings, there's a way there's a politics around the use of the elevator. The elevator that is meant for everybody's use, they have, but it's a conversation that is ongoing. So we don't lose sight of what we're discussing. Essentially, the Nigerian political space, because of the work TAF does, Inclusive Friends Association, and CCD, quite a number of OPDs have been doing so much advocacy work. INEC on its own came out with even guidelines. Now, in because of this work, we identified that guidelines are not law by the Nigerian context. Whereas INEC has been told to do this thing. INEC has a guideline for inclusion of persons with disabilities that even some of the political parties didn't know about, even though it's there. So we hope that in the electoral reforms, the next, those guidelines will become law. Because we realize that if something is law, everybody wants to sit on it and get it done. Even though and then the National Commission for Persons with Disabilities has its regulations published, gazetted. It's a job a very holistic job. And this brings me to the issue of standards for accessibility standards. Because we have not made standards an issue, when we were doing that research, at the beginning, we had what we call page analysis. Page stands for states that have passed the
state law.
The people have passed the Disability Act. A is for assented, G is for gazetted, and E is enforcing. So somebody said, don't use the word enforcement. That is too hard. It will make it look like... So we said, okay, let's be politically correct. Only for me to get to Nairobi at the Inclusive Africa Conference, I was called upon to be one of the speakers on this issue of enforcement. And we now saw that around the world, they have standards, accessibility standards are already existing. And guess the word that they use? They enforce it. Because enforcement is actually the word. Enforcement, you must enforce. We started using compliance in Nigeria, trying to be politically correct. How do we get our people to comply? To pancake the thing as if they are doing you a favor. I say here, the job of every PWD, person with determination, is to enforce the Disability Act.
What is the essence of the law without enforcement?
What is the essence of a law without enforcement?
Dr. Chike, right? When you spoke for a while, I kind of made some mental notes on what you said about difference between structure and infrastructure. So I always say this, that there's difference between when there is a law, there's a part of it that I call aesthetics and the functionality of these things, right? Now, I feel like when it comes to political parties and laws generally for persons with disabilities, it's more like we've made this thing to set people where we should go. We have it in place now. We have it somewhere.
That is where the problem is.
Yes, we have it somewhere. Yeah, we have a guideline. Of course, we have this one. We have internal. Does it work?